Stevens Floral would like to remind you Valentine's Day is Sunday, February 14th. Get your orders in early, as they will be open on the 14th for pickup only. Stevens Floral would like to remind you Valentine's Day is Sunday, February 14th. Get your orders in early, as they will be open on the 14th for pickup only.
Meeting to order, February 9th. Jackie, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda.
Is this a handout that's not part of the packet, sir? The resolution that reads how it's in the packet.
It's in the packet.
Okay.
This is
Just
color.
clarification.
This has color.
Is it scented too?
What's that?
It's not
No,
scented.
not scented. Next time.
Crackers. Thank you.
To review and approve the minutes for January 26th regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Been moved by Russ, seconded by Jackie. Discussion?
Second.
Discussion?
I'd like to make a motion. Yeah.
Call for the question.
Question been called for. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, passes unanimous. Next up, Director of Operations report.
Thank you, Mr. Stoker. Don't really have anything specific to report on other than, it's kind of interesting, the last couple of weeks, some applications for some sheds and greenhouses. Within about 2 hours, 2 different folks came in and were asking about greenhouses. So I thought that was going to be interesting. So applications coming in, new sign, looks like we're having a new business. I never say it right. Is it gyro sandwiches? Gyro sandwiches. Gyro. Looks like new business that where Mike Probst building on Atlantic Street. They applied for a sign and that fits all requirements. So kind of nice to see them start the business again. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Todd at this time? All right, thank you, Todd.
You're welcome.
Moving on to certificate number 202101.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Russ, seconded by Raymond. Discussion?
Just that Mr. Gallery Allen at 201 North Oregon Street is looking at adding on to the back of his house, just a little addition, a mudroom. His wife passed away for the last year, and he told her that all these years she wanted him to have a mudroom. So he's finally going to answer her wishes with adding on a mudroom and the closet. So that's all he's looking at doing.
So, Mr. Hazelbeck, would you clarify, please, on the right-hand side of the paper, and it's slightly got cut off. What's the setback there, please? On the addition to the right of it.
Okay, which one?
The hand-drawn one.
It's right here.
He doesn't, if you look at this one, he doesn't really have a setback on this one.
Right.
But on page 2, which I didn't notice until actually this afternoon, he didn't put in his drawing.
Correct. That's
But he
what I'm
has,
asking.
but he has plenty of room,
Okay.
a lot of room, in fact, so that went by like that. Thank you. So yeah, there's setbacks, no issues at all. 'Cause he pretty much owns that half of the block.
Right, and 16 off of that clearly is good.
So, yeah.
It was just for clarification, that was all.
Yep, no, that's good.
So for the sake of consistency, we probably need to get that on there. We need to get they actually put, in writing what it is, whether it be 55 feet or 52 feet or whatever the distance is.
34. Off from the sidewalk. No, okay.
Can't imagine they're gonna be digging a hole this week anyways, are they? Sub-zero temps, probably not a good week to be digging.
I was under the impression that it was not built yet, but he's already, pretty much has it in.
Oh,
What he's doing a lot of work around the home, it looks like, new siding and everything. So I think he must have got a little quicker start on it about the time he did the application.
I love those.
But it all fits in, not sure if there is anything that sticks out as being in violation of anything, other than just to jump the gun.
Yeah. Gotta love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all the rough lines match and everything, it's not
Yeah, so I guess that would be my main things we need to have that for clarification. So if you can keep that for the next meeting. Doesn't sound like we're slowing them up any at this point. Yeah, interesting there. Jackie, I thought you were the one on patrol this week. You sprained her ankle. She's out. Any more discussion? We'll open it up for public comment at this time. So certificate number 2021/01 is open for public comment this time. All right, if there's no public who'd like to comment, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Any more discussion? Raymond, you've been awfully quiet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what would if we should approve it or deny it till next week and get everything right, because he's already got it built, so I don't know, I'm trying to decide what we can even do about it now.
Well, we can table it until next time, and then we have all the information correctly, and then we can
I guess,
approve it based on the facts.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I should have said something in public comment, but it might help.
Okay?
I just noticed he's got 34 feet from the corner there, and if you subtract 16 from that, that would be the minimum setback that he would have. The building is 16, I think, feet, isn't it?
Correct.
16.
Yeah, the addition, I mean.
Well, 10 feet from the off the property line.
Yeah, but he'd have at least 18 feet.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah, I mean, he's got plenty of
Yeah.
everything, right.
It's just not spelled out,
Yeah.
plotted out correctly, so I feel like for the, for consistency purposes, we should definitely have it.
I would move to table until the next meeting when we should have a properly filled out form or map out.
Flat, okay?
Flat.
Got a motion on the table to table the application until we can have the setbacks be defined.
Second it?
Seconded by Jackie.
Got the question?
Question been called for. All those in favor of tabling certificate number 2021-01, say aye. Opposed, nay. All right, we'll go ahead and table that one. So Todd, can you get with them on that and try to?
I guess, did he have to pay a filing fee for that then?
Well, I said, no, because I didn't know he'd started, because I was under the impression he was starting later in the summer.
So when you go talk to him, you can let him know that he violated the terms of building in the city of Dillon at the same time?
Yep.
Good time for that one. All right, sounds good.
Maybe try to talk him into it.
Todd makes a good bad guy. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to update of the possible proposed zoning district classification for the potato cellar public hearing that has been scheduled for the 23rd.
Hang on. Put this under.
It's good thing you have a good memory there, huh?
Yeah, good notes.
Yeah, good memory.
It's all right. It's about getting good now.
Okay.
We concentrated so hard getting the Zoom set up.
Yeah.
Zoom report too.
Yeah, it does. Okay, we're good. Hello, Miss Brady.
How are you tonight?
Good, how have you done?
Better than my car.
All right, Todd, so I guess an update on that. You've been posting and sending
Yep.
out notices and letters and all that good stuff?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got it on schedule for the 23rd.
Yep, 5:30.
Alright. There's the update on that. Any public comment at this time on, well, basically it's been proposed, it's going to go out as a public notice and going to go beyond, we have a public hearing scheduled for the 23rd, so. Alright. Okay, we'll move on. Update of the initiative I-90 recreational marijuana impact on zoning.
I spoke with Mr. Dillon this afternoon, and he has reached out, and there hasn't been any more action regarding that. But we just felt that we'll just keep it on the agenda as it goes through the legislative process.
Sounds good. Item G, update / discussion of the proposed changes to the uses for all zones. I guess before we dive in too far, I'm just going to give Ed a few minutes. I know he spent quite a bit of time working on this matrix. Ed, if you'd like to stand up and share what you've kind of done and all the efforts you put into that.
Well, I hope that it's been a help. Really, all I try to do is take the mayor's matrix and format it a little differently and try to make clear what's being proposed. And I hope I've got it right. I keep asking people to take a look at it and compare it with the mayor's tables from the 12th meeting. I've looked at it enough to where I'm probably not going to see any mistakes that I might have in it. I think it's accurate. The idea, I think, is a good one, like I said before, to rationalize and clean up all of what's going on with the different tables for the different categories. And to that extent, what the matrix that's in the packet, the combined matrix, is really just a mashup of all of the definitions that are currently in the code with the mayor's judgment calls as far as simplifying and reducing duplication in the descriptions and things. And there are a lot of those. For example, you've got singular and plural in a lot of things. So you don't need both cottage and cottages, or whatever they are there. So it looks like there's a lot going on, but when I look at it, I'm actually seeing two things. One is the actual descriptions or uses, and there's been a lot of consolidation in those uses. And in some cases, for some districts, they've been expanded. Like in a couple of the districts, there was one use, schools. And then there's all the different kinds of schools called out in other districts in the current code. And so the mayor made that consistent by having all of the different kinds of schools listed for all the districts where schools were authorized. And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff in there, done pretty well. The total number of descriptions was cut about half by rationalizing things and cleaning up duplications and that kind of stuff is what I've concluded anyway. So that's half of it, is the consolidation of descriptions. The other half then is the changes to the actual uses for specific districts. And those show up in the tables as they did in the mayor's tables as the markups, where certain uses are crossed out and changed to something else, or a use is added. So there's some counts at the bottom of the table that kind of summarize the uses issues there by district, and then some summary stuff. So you can see that the new uses are enumerated for each district compared to what was there, or the changes to uses. They might not be new, might have changed from a conditional to a principal use kind of thing. So there's some numbers at the bottom that kind of summarize what some of those changes might be. But I think some of those proposed changes probably need to be discussed quite a bit. Most of them I don't think are very significant. They're kind of obvious when you look at it in the context of the whole, all of the different districts and the different categories of districts. They're kind of obvious that maybe that was an oversight when people were just looking at one category at a time. But there are some, and I'll just share a couple that jumped out at me, and I haven't really gone through it. With that in mind, I've been spending most of the time just trying to get it to where it reflects what's going on there. And then, of course, we can filter, and I think the packet does include some of the filters where we reproduce a table, say, for residential districts, that only list the uses for those for residential districts. So those tables are smaller. They don't include all of the uses that might be in any district, like the big matrix does. Is that okay so far? So then I'll just mention a couple of significant things that I think may be significant, that you may want to set aside some of these for consideration as part of another batch of changes. I think if it were me and it isn't, I'd probably tackle just getting the use definitions. That's going to be a big part of this, is balancing these uses against what's in the definitions, and make sure there are appropriate definitions on that part of it. So that'll take quite a bit of time, I think. Most of the definitions are there, but some leave a bit of an opening, and maybe a little clarification. One that bothers me is the difference between a private and a public parking area, or private and commercial, and those things might need to be made pretty clear, because for the most part some of those are fairly new descriptions, or they've changed a little bit, and so that there's a few of those things, and that private public shows up in a lot of places, and so might need to be a little careful. The tiny house was a brand new one that maybe it might be premature to put it in, I don't know. The horticulture, I think it had showed up in ag, but I don't think there's a definition for it. I haven't really got that far of it. Then I guess the question comes up, what's that have to do with, or how's that different from greenhouses? And public and private greenhouses, and that kind of thing. And then the home business and office might need a look to see if that's really consistent with the current code that's in there. I mentioned the parking area was added to R1 and R2, and I'm not sure that makes sense. Mobile homes were added to R2, and that kind of jumped out at me that manufactured homes and modulars are already allowed in all of the residential districts, and the mobile homes have not been allowed in R1 and R2.
Right.
So, and I think that might have some impact on the people that not so long ago chose to become R2. That might be an unanticipated thing that they really want to be included in. So, again, if it were me, I'd pick out a few of those things that you can't see the rationalization right away, and put them on a to-do list, and then revisit them individually once the definitions are cleared up and that kind of thing. But that's for what it's worth. I'm glad I'm not actually the one that's got to do that. So.
Thank you for your time on this, Ed.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, so let's have a discussion now.
Mr. Stoker?
Yeah.
I think Mrs. O'Rourke wanted to.
That's fine, go ahead.
Okay.
So the from what I could tell there, I didn't see anything, Ed, that was different from what the mayor tried to put out there. And once again, all it is we got to start somewhere. So what the mayor did is go through and start cleaning up a lot of the redundancies that were in there, and then some of the things that have been brought up and have come up a few different times. So as far as the things that were put in there, it's not saying that that was what had to be done, but that was what we started with, and we can kind of go through and start addressing some of the potential hurdles that we're going to be faced with. So all in all, I guess the thing that I look at more than anything is when it goes to public hearing, because this will eventually go, we don't have it scheduled anytime soon. I think we've discussed that it's going to be a while yet before we can even get it to that point. It's not going to be getting scheduled today. But just because we schedule the public hearing doesn't mean it's done. You know, this is where we'll listen to what the public have to say about each specific change or proposed change, and then we come back and have more further discussion on whatever that might be. So just because it's proposed doesn't mean it's going to end up being that. And I will say that with the tool that Ed has provided, the mayor started, Ed has fine-tuned, I feel like it gives the public a pretty good thing to look at and have an idea as to what the changes really are. And if you look at, I look at mobile home, to bring up that talking point that Ed brought up, the one that the mayor kind of penciled in as a conditional use in an R2. Conditional use in an R2 would still require to go before public hearing, correct? Yes. So if there are neighbors that would have a problem with a mobile home going in that neighborhood that we're talking about, the public would have that opportunity to come forth and voice their concern about it, which wouldn't mean it would just be passed if that was what we decided to do with it. So just as an example that nothing is happening today, and there will be a lot of opportunities for the public to share, at least before we get this hammered out. But we do need some place to start, and it does appear to be a pretty decent place. I do agree that when we come forward, we need to have thought about some of these definitions and talked about maybe clarifying some of these definitions that may not currently exist, and so that when we come forward to a conclusion, we're proposing to add those definitions at the same time. Anything else there, Jackie? Nothing?
I like the style. I like Mr. Moore's style.
Yeah.
I
Does look very good, and it's definitely one of those things that we'll have to continue to work on it. So not saying that we do, but I do think that some of those recommendations that Ed brought up as far as making sure there's clarification for definitions of what private parking is versus commercial parking, going through and starting the process of diving into some of those things. So maybe we need to look at that as what definitions do we need to start clarifying, so that when we have the public hearing, we can say, here's the recommendation, here's the definition to go with it, and then that discussion is a lot cleaner because we've done that legwork and footwork.
Well, maybe we ought to set time, each of our next meetings we have, to make it a point to go see where we got these large lines, dark lines.
Yeah.
Maybe each meeting from now on until we get through, we'll make it a point to go over two of these dark lines and look at the definitions and talk about just this much.
Yeah, those correspond to the mayor, they should, if I got them right, those should correspond to the mayor's tables.
Okay, well, I just mean,
Yeah, the individual tables that you.
if we make it a point to discuss whatever there are 20 in between them two lines every meeting, and look up the difference, that gets to be too many, we can cut it down to 10, but just make it a point to discuss just them 10, and look up dictionary.
Did you guys follow what he's saying down there?
And just every meeting.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That way when we
Every meeting, we'll just take 30 minutes or whatever it takes to go through them and then discuss them and look them up and things.
and it's going to take time, but you don't need to rush this. This isn't something you need to rush. So as we go,
Well, that will be an all-winter project for sure, probably part of the summer, but at least when we got done, hopefully we'll have the right meetings for what they are in the index, and we'll understand why they're there and what they're, so when we do go to public meeting, we can look back at our record and say, well, here's why we decided this.
Sure. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and open this particular item up for public comment this time. But yes, it will be a long process of going through it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Mary Jo O'Rourke. I live at 525 South Pacific Street. I really like your process and the way forward that you're talking about, and especially Raymond's idea that every week or every meeting you take a particular category and go through and discuss each one. What I was concerned about, and I was hoping that I could talk you into going one step further, just keeping the same process you're talking about, but going one step further, because what I'm afraid of is that the commission will put in tons and tons of hours and hours of work, and it will go to a public hearing, and there will be a vote to send this to the city council as it's presented, with maybe one or two changes. And because of one or two things that seem controversial, it'll get to the city council stage, and the city council will not be able to vote in the affirmative. And so they'll send the entire package back to zoning commission. And there will be, and we kind of have gone through that process on a couple of different issues. So Ed kind of spoke to this process of there is so much in here that everybody can agree on. 90% of what is in here, everyone can agree on. There are probably less than, I'm trying to think of the total number of whether it be a change of use or it's now been given, such as mobile homes in R2. That wasn't even thought of. But now there is an idea to make that a conditional use. So whether we're talking about a change of use or adding a use to a category, we are talking about, Ed, please correct my numbers, was it 118 or 122?
What?
And when we're talking about total number of change of use or additional uses, it's on the display that we didn't give to the numbers were out on the side. But I'm going to say, I think it's 118. So I believe that there's 102 or 103 in there that everybody can agree on. And if we could put that package together and send that to the council and get that put along with the definitions into Title 17, oh my gosh, it would just go so far into making Title 17 a coordinated, non-conflicting title. I mean, it would just really take it not to the next level, it would take it up 3 or 4 levels. So I'm hoping that we can just, Ed mentioned probably 4 or 5 of them, and that would be a bit controversial, and they would be the tiny houses, the mobile homes, the parking private, and there's kind of 2 different things in there. There's one that's called horticulture, and it does have a definition in the big book that Todd uses, And it has incredible implications with the new pot laws. So I think we have to be very careful with that one. And that would be a really good one to pull out and not have as part of these changes, because I think in the future it's going to have, it's going to be very relevant after they get through doing the executive rules in terms of how marijuana will be grown and dispensed in Montana. So there are a few of them like that, that if we could pull those out and just put those on the back burner to deal with next year, there's a great big part of this that could be, that could go to city council, and I'm sure get through pretty quickly. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment at this time?
Yeah, does this work? Yeah, I'll just add one thing. I think I try to remember to go back to the beginning of each of the district categories, residential, commercial, and so on, and look at the intent of the districts. And that might be a guide whether you want to go forward with some of these. Like the mini warehouses in an R3 is a commercial storage units. Are they really compatible with residential in general? There's always the variances that are available when they are, or potentially could be. So if they're in the table, I think they should be consistent with the intent of the district. And that might sort a few of these things out. What it's worth. It doesn't mean you can't have them on a list to revisit later either, but I'd sure encourage that kind of thing.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment at this time? All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment on item G. So, with all that it's been discussed here, we do know it's going to be a lengthy process on developing this. I will say this, that I'm not aware of anything that's come back to our committee that we've sent forward that was taking, you know, all of this time that we had to go back and relook at. Nothing comes to my mind off the top of my head. So usually this committee does a pretty dang good job of hammering out all of the details and trying to take as much feedback as we can. Not everybody's going to be happy all the time, but usually we try to do our best to make sure that the voice of the people is heard, and we take that into consideration. So I will say that that whatever we choose to do, I don't feel like avoiding topics is the way to handle it. I feel like we need to have open dialogue and discussion, and if it's meant to be on there, it'll be on there. If it's not, it won't be. And maybe it doesn't make it this time and it goes next time. We don't know. But that's not going to be decided because we're afraid to bring something up. So I do appreciate all the comment there, and we'll definitely be having a lot of fun over the next little while trying to come up with something, because it doesn't work now and it needs to be cleaned up. So I guess with that said, we'll just plan on going through the definitions. It shouldn't take that long looking at it. I mean, some might take longer than others, but I'd imagine for the most part we should be able to work through that in the next couple months. I would say be able to get through the definitions, and if there's something that needs to be added, we'll dive into that and go from there. But we should be able to make some progress. Any other discussion? Raymond, you got anything on your mind? No? You're awful quiet tonight. It's just not like you.
Practicing.
Don't encourage me.
All right, sounds good. All right. Okay, we'll move on then. Next one is going to be to review the zoning bylaws. Review and approve the bylaws.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded discussion. Russ, you happy with that?
No, there's still 3, just spacing errors and return errors, but it's okay.
All right, I
I
was
know,
gonna say.
right? So close, so
We-
close. That darn tab.
Damn. We gotta look at Russ on that. So Russ is good at that. All right, any, huh?
Jack, you had some,
Did you have something?
I did.
Oh,
I have some
Oh, yes,
corrections.
sir.
Would you use your microphone though, because, thank you.
Yes, I had some corrections that I had done, and of course, I haven't been able to look at what's here tonight, is what I have, but I'll bring them in and give them to
Okay, that's fine.
Tom. We won't have to waste our time with it. So I'd have to pick them out if I wanted to do that.
That's fine.
so I guess it's going on the agenda next time. All right, I and Jackie were hoping to get it off, but
Yeah, I know.
all right.
We'll blame it on Russ, though.
Yeah, well, he said there were
They
3
might already
spaces.
be made.
Pardon?
All the ones I found may have already been made.
Oh, okay.
I'm just in,
She's delayed.
well,
Okay.
probably.
That's fine.
It's been cold, so last couple days.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go ahead and move on then, since there's not much to discuss there. Item I, update of proposed annexation and zoning of 2 areas along Noble Avenue.
That I sort of have to apologize, I've not really been on top of because of some other projects going on in the city. I have spoken with a couple people with concerned phone calls about what was going on, explaining to them the situation, but I know John Grant. Yes. They tried to call me and I failed to call him back.
Is this John in the back? John, how's it going?
Yeah,
Do you want to stand up
So I
and
appreciate, so I apologize, John,
Sure,
for
you're-
not calling you back.
share your joyful demeanor with us?
Yeah, I just called, I got my letter. I know you guys are sending out letters, and I got my letter, and it said something about annexation and C2. And from my understanding, I'm currently county unannexed, and I would like to remain that way. That's why I'm here, just to voice my,
Your
My want.
discontent? Yeah.
Okay, and just, why would you like to stay that way?
Personally, from my understanding, I am on my own water and sewer, so I don't really want to get piped in. Also, money-wise, I don't really want to get piped into city water and city sewer. And my current restrictions are a lot less. So, my main reasons, yeah.
Sounds good. So is that the only person that you sent letter?
No, I
You
also
heard back
sent the only one I've heard from, yes,
Okay.
directly involved. Yes.
Okay. All right. Raymond, do you have something on your mind?
No, I guess I might add that the only thing this body here does is actually determine what zone you would be annexed in. Actually, the city council is the one who's actually in charge of the annexation process. I would start with the mayor first and then Todd.
And what our involvement would be, we're trying to do it all together. If let's say you're in support of it, we would do the annexation and the zoning at the same time.
Okay.
So this is kind of a way to get a feel of how you feel towards,
Yeah, that's,
obviously not the
that's why
annexation.
I couldn't get a hold of you, so I know you guys are having, I just want to get my voice out there.
I appreciate
I
that.
knew you guys would be doing this, so.
I appreciate you coming.
Well, it was smart of you to show up to the meeting.
Yeah.
Because if you don't show up, we don't know.
I would have tracked you
He's
down.
had other phone calls too, so,
Yep.
and we haven't had letters. There's no letters that.
No, I just started with the people with the annexation and the out of the county, those folks in the county, so I started with,
So the people that were being annexed in,
yes,
yes.
started with that, yep.
So, I guess, can we ask why?
You can stand.
So I live at 48 Fairway. What-
Could you give us your name, please?
Lane Miller, 48 Fairway Drive, Julie Park is my mother, I'm talking.
Talk to your mom, yep.
Yep. So, what is your purpose for zoning that area? What's your starting purpose, what's your ending purpose, and what's cost for us? I mean, what is that total package that you guys are doing? All we did is got a letter saying that we want to zone you into this zone. So what, you tell me, you asked us why we didn't want it. Tell us why you're doing it.
One of the things is within the city of Dillon, there's certain areas that are not zoned. And one of the things we'd like to do is to zone everything within the city limits. And this particular area is not zoned. And one of the things we talked about was proposed zoning of maybe possibly residential, C2, just throwing those out as possibilities.
So until you get this figured out, definitions, you can't zone in there because you don't know what that is, correct?
No, you can zone. That'll change. Yeah, this will change. As far as the definitions or what's allowed and what's the allowable uses, that can change anytime. You could be a C2. These folks that are R2s, they're all currently, an R2. This is going to go through a process of public hearing, listen to what people have to say, and then you go through and change it.
Okay, but we have, we got a C2, and we got trailers, and we got all that. So if you zone everybody into an R3 or R1, whatever, residential, how would that be? I mean, you got a whole, from the map that I was looking at, you got that whole section being zoned.
There's
correct.
Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 lots there is what the total is.
You're just doing one side of this road.
Yeah, the area that's not zoned.
Right. Just one side.
Yes.
Everything else is zoned.
That runs along Noble Avenue.
Yes. And Ramshorn was recently.
And even though I don't.
So we talk fairway, but you're talking whole thing.
Yeah.
A back door. So okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the back side.
Okay.
And basically what happens here is we would like to know what the standard procedures that we've taken is when we're zoning anybody, we're asking the landowners who are going to be zoned what their opinion or what their choice would be of the choices that we have. So we're not just coming and saying you're going to be an R1 or you're going to be an R2 or whatever it is. We want to throw it out to you, which is, if you're going to be zoned, what would you like to be zoned?
Right.
And then we start the process to go through and get all the public comment and get everything else to go through it. So that's where we're at this point. We're at the beginning stages trying to gather the information so that we know what to proceed with.
All right. Thank you.
And it is a good point, being in the county and, wanting to know what the pros and cons and all of that is. And
I think one of the biggest issues with, and you guys are one of them, you live in an island. Both sides, you are the city. You enjoy all the benefits of the city without having to pay city taxes. The city takes care of your roads, we grade the roads, we do all that stuff.
But we're city.
Well, you guys are already city.
We're already city, and we don't benefit from grading roads and stuff. We don't, because nobody comes down there.
Yeah, they're organic speed bumps.
well, nobody graded.
Yeah.
No.
Nobody has.
Drinking too much Kool-Aid. Come on.
Yeah, my road hasn't been graded in quite some time too, but I can tell you it gets graded a whole lot more than it was when the county, when's the last time the county come down and graded your road?
Well, I can't even park in front of my house because I got a fire hydrant there, and I'm still paying
Well, and that's another
the
example.
city.
That's another example of people who live in the county is actually taking advantage of fire protection. Their insurance is lower because of the city. I guess I'm directing this at you because you're the only one that's in it. That's one of the other things. Like I said, you got people who's taking advantage of all the city services but don't contribute at all to the city taxes. They help pay for the city services that the other residents of Dillon has to help pay.
And Raymond will be running for mayor later this year, just so no, I'm just kidding. But here's the deal. So I get all that, but the point is in the end, that what happens is when cities grow, which is what's happening, there has to be a process in place to bring it along. And not everybody's a fan of it, but there's times that the majority do have to come in and be thought of there. So it's not something that is the funnest thing in the world to do, to go out and annex people in, but it is something that has to be looked at, and that's what we're doing right now, is taking a look at it. And we would like to have you share your thoughts on what you would like it to be if that is the case that happens. And it's not always about the city, but it is one of those things that we have to look at it and say, okay, what is the best for everybody? And sometimes there are people that are, feel like, well, I got the short end on that one. But in the end, the intent is really trying to better the everybody. And the reason why we have to tackle the unzoned areas is because anything in unzoned, there is no control. So if you have a neighbor and you live in an unzoned area, and the neighbor wants to go and do whatever they want, now there's nothing that the city can do to protect you as their neighbor from doing that. So if we can put in a zone, put in a zoning designation that you agree with and the neighbors agree with, then all of a sudden the city has something to protect the landowners and the neighbors. So that's the idea and that's the intent of it. Are there other pieces of it? Sure, there are. But I think in the end it is a matter of, there are a few small, if you look at this piece right here, this big chunk right behind R.E. Miller was already zoned in. We already went through that process last year. So now there's just a few little parcels on that back side. And everything around it's C2, and that's why we kind of said C2 probably makes the most sense, but that's where we need your feedback on what you would like that to be, and then we can kind of proceed.
So what are you wanting us? Well, what are you guys?
You're already a C2, correct?
Right.
Yeah, you're already a C2. So as far as you're concerned,
I think they're on zone.
Well, we're on zone too.
Oh, you guys are on zone?
He's
correct.
They're in the city, but they're on zone.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in the city, but you're on zone. Okay, so you're currently in zone, and all we're throwing out there is, okay, the discussion needs to happen that we start talking about zoning it, and if we do, in our mind, just because it's C2 all the way around it, maybe that's what you'd like, but maybe you guys don't want that. And that's something that that discussion needs to take place so that we can proceed forward to the other steps.
Because right now it's all homes, the trailers through there. So, so it'd be,
No,
R3 now would be.
it's all homes and trailers on the other side, so ours are homes.
Yeah.
And you might want to protect that.
Yeah. And that's what that's the discussion that needs to happen. And if you guys would like to come in and visit with Todd and kind of go through this table that we have here today that talks about some of those things, it would help you do that. And I would say this, and this is my opinion, in most cases, being in the city is going to improve your property value than diminish it. So from your perspective, I would strongly recommend taking a serious look at it, because it does add value when you go to resell it down the road. But that's just my tiny perspective. You own the land, you're entitled to your opinion, and I think that's what we need to look at. So right now, that's all we've done up to this point, is just send out letters asking what you guys would do. We've kind of said that C2's all the way around you. That might make sense, but you guys might say, no, we want to be an R2 or an R3 or whatever. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And as far as your deal goes, that's the city council thing, so we'll let Raymond.
So actually we have two.
Handle that one.
I think we got 2 or 3.
Total lots?
I think there's 2 county right
Two
there, and
counties.
there's like 4 on zone.
We got him and we got the.
But didn't the Alberries want to be in the city? Weren't they requesting to join?
No.
They weren't? Okay. I didn't know what their deal was. I know they submitted applications.
We got another guy that is wanting to be in the city.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, Alberries have property that's in the city, right next to it. They're not in the city.
Okay. So anyhow, yeah, there's definitely some work to do, but we figure we might as well get the ball rolling and then hopefully, not take anybody off. That's the goal. We don't want to take anybody off. All right.
Too late.
No, it's all good.
Hopefully, when we're all done, we will have explained our side of the thing, and you guys explain yours, and we come together and we decide you know, being in the city is not such a bad thing, especially if I could be zoned this, because this is in line with what I want to do. And generally, that's how most of the time it happens. It don't always happen that way. And sometimes it just becomes a point to where you get forced into the city because, and I'll use you again for a good example, you're on water and sewer. If you're
I'm on my own.
right, that's what I mean. You're on a septic and water. If something ever happens to your well and something ever happens to your septic, you will not by law be able to use it again. Then you'll be coming to the city and saying, please let me in. So it'd be a lot better if you're already there, because it's a whole lot easier to say, hey, I'm a city resident, I want to tap into your water. You know what I mean? Because, and that's actually in the future, I can see wells and sewers or septic tanks are being picked on very hard by the DEQ. And I can see in the near future, you might not even want to even admit you have a septic tank, even if you know where one exists, because they're coming down hard on them, we're trying to come down hard on them. I mean, we're lucky right now that we're such a big area that you can get away with it, but in some places, it's getting pretty tough to even pump your septic without somebody coming in and causing you.
Now, he does not have to hook up if he was
No, you don't have to.
So you don't,
No.
so that's one thing, like.
Well, that's what I was saying, you don't have to.
Yeah, you
water and
don't,
sewer.
just because you're
Just because
annexed in, it doesn't mean you have to hook in
Right.
and start paying city water and sewer.
You cannot, if anything goes wrong with your well or septic, you have to come in, but that's the same whether we annex you in or not.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty much the state law, anywhere within 150 or 200 feet of the water line, it's got to hook on the city water, and you can't hook on the city water without being annexed in.
So anyhow, but those are all questions that he wouldn't know until you come and have this discussion.
Yeah.
So it's not like yet, you know, so there are still people down your neck of the woods that are still on water, aren't they, or are on their own well?
No, we all hooked up. There is 1, 2, 3, I think 4 septics.
Septics,
They're
that's right.
currently in use. The couple wells are there, just like in Ivyville artesian wells, simply for irrigation purposes only, not for domestic use.
Sure.
And just like today, the House bill that was before the state legislation, I don't think you'd want to have health and welfare telling you about your septic. That was before it today. They bypass sanitation and we go straight to health departments telling you about your septic. So hopefully it got killed. Because as someone that serves on that board, I don't want to tell you about your septic.
Yeah.
He doesn't want anything to do with your septic.
No.
It might need cleaned though.
I get a referral, hello? Yeah, I got someone to pump it for you.
But anyhow, so what we're at the stage right now is we are trying to just gather the information. If we were, because we're planning on going forward with rezoning, those that are already in it, and if you're not in it, moving forward with the annexation and zoning, we'd like to know what your preference would be on the zone that you would be. And yes, there are some pros and cons to each one. You need to be educated on what you would prefer. So don't just take what everybody else does. If you want to be something, submit it. Let's go from there.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else? Any public comment at this time, I guess, on item?
Aye.
Aye. Item I.
Aye.
Yeah, I just say one thing about the why is the zoning going on in the annexing? Well, the zoning, as Russ knows, it's been in the growth policy, which is the city's long-term plan for growth. It's been in there for 15 years. That all of the unzoned areas within the city limits have to be zoned. And as you guys know, that had like a 1-2 year target to get that all done.
Yes.
About 3 years ago.
Correct.
And we went through the same thing the last 5 years, trying to get it done. So you made real good progress. The other thing is that the annexation, the planning board has already recommended, and that's a planning board recommendation. It's always already recommended annexation of those 2 pieces that are along Noble twice, I believe, in the last 3 or 4 years, right?
Further back, my friend.
Yeah, what's that?
I want to say 6 or 8.
Yeah.
Because we were both on plan.
Yeah, the last time was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but it's come through twice.
Yeah, planning board recommended two to the council to annex them. And I think the hangup has something to do with the provision of services
Yes.
policy, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So now that that's in place, that opens it up to going ahead with that, forwarding that recommendation to the council too. So.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment this time? All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment on item I. And yes, as far as the discussion goes, it's just a lot better to have the discussion like this and get it out there. It's not the worst thing in the world. It may not be the best thing in the world, but it might be something that if everybody comes to some kind of understanding and agreement, it can work out to everybody's benefit. And so hopefully we can get your guys' opinion on that. That way we have it as far as the city council. We'll let Raymond and Russ. What? Oh, Mary Jo, yeah. Yeah, we got 3 people. We've got 3 council people in here right now that I'm sure would love to take those next steps. But it isn't going to be the worst thing that happened to you. And I do think if you do get with your neighbors and find out what you guys all would like, you'd probably find that there's some pretty beneficial things in the long run that you can do. So. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to J, public comment on items of significant public interest not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the zoning commission.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.